Basketball fans, the Toronto Raptors get a W, 115-111 from Little Caesars Arena in Michigan, and they end a 2-game losing streak. So the fans are happy, and welcome into our brand new digs here at 50 Bay Street, Akil Augustine, Sherm Hamilton over there, Jonesy in the middle. You like the set, Jonesy?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just checking out the interior decorating.
Oh, that's shout out to our producer Jake and myself. You like what we did here? You can find everything.
I like what Jake did.
Oh, man. You can find a lot of this stuff, of course, at Real Sports down in the Scotiabank Arena. But let's start with the game. Let's start with the biggest story of the game. The Raptors, they need a medic right now. Bodies are dropping. But the man that stepped up to the plate, Sherm, I'll start with you. Your impressions of Delano Banton, a night where he got a career night and only his second start, first this season.
He was great. I mean, Delano brings a lot of things to the floor when you're talking about his length, the position he plays, understanding, what he can do on the defensive side of the basketball. But I've always said this, he's such an unselfish player that at some point he needs to start looking for his own offense. And what we saw, he did a great job, and he's been doing it. He's been looking for shots. He's been shooting the three with confidence. He's been making plays at the basket. He's been aggressive. But what I like about him is he doesn't need the ball all the time. He cuts well. He reads the defense. He gets to spots. He presents himself as an option. But I thought he did an amazing job in terms of, being ready for this moment.
Yes.
This was an opportunity. And the problem with opportunities sometimes is it's not recognized or it's not taken advantage of. He did a great job taking advantage of it. And I thought from the jump, first 30 seconds of the game, he had a steal. Immediate impact. And he just continued to build off of that, force it in transition, put pressure on the defense. And then before you know it, that shot was falling. He was making buckets, and he found a rhythm early, and that confidence built. And I like an aggressive, offensive Delano because you're never going to lose your instinct to pass the ball because that's who he is. But understanding that at times, if you want to be a good point guard in this league, you've got to know when to take your piece. Fred is great at it. Fred understands it's my time to score. Now it's my time to set everybody up. That balance is so crucial for a point guard. Yeah. And I feel like Delano had that balance last night.
The real good point guards do that. They get everybody involved. And I've always said this. I don't fear the point guard that scores 30. I got to stop him. That's fine. You know who scares me? The guy who has 18 and 13 assists, because now everybody's at the party, right? And to Sherm's point, a couple things that I noticed about Delano. He'd always been kind of waiting in the wings, waiting for his opportunity. And he's a rhythm changer. When he comes in off the bench, he adds something to the game that the Raptors don't have. We joke, we call him the 45 to Kipling Express. He pushes the ball. He gets other people involved. He does those things naturally. As Sherm said, he did that from the jump last night. And from a qualitative standpoint, a body language standpoint, I saw a young man that was like, okay, I get to start now. I get to start. I look over. There aren't a lot of guys in that bench. Like you have a lineup out with Precious, Pascal, Fred, Gary.
Yep.
Like that's a lineup that's already out. And then Otto later on.
With the ankle?
You got 5 of your top, 9 guys out. And Delano looked and he said, Sherm, to the opportunity, all right, it's my time now, and we're going to do something with it. I thought he was terrific last night, played with a lot of confidence, and did an unreal job for the entire game, not just for bits and pieces.
It's interesting. When you look at a guy like Delano, you see we've seen him get better. He had a great summer.
Yep.
We saw what he did over the summer with our national team. Yep. He had a great summer. And when you see people grow right in front of your eyes, you see the growth spurts. And this was a growth spurt game for Delano. I mean, this was one of those games where you looked at and you saw, okay, he was impact on defense. He was impact on passing the ball. He was impact on scoring. He was impact at getting to the rim, shooting. Like all facets of his game was on display. And he was just saying, we're watching a growth spurt right there.
And you know where you saw that too? All you do is look at the Pistons. They're like, wait a minute, this cat wasn't on the scouting report. Wait a minute, hold on a second.
Big surprise.
Hold on a second. Like, we knew he could play. It's one of those sneak up on you.
Yeah.
We knew he could play, but we didn't know he was this good. This wasn't on the scouting report. Who is this cat?
Well, what else wasn't on the scouting report was that closing unit. And we got to talk about that because the challenge was issued to Nick Nurse. Your guys aren't available, so let's talk about it. The final group, you had Barnes, Banton, Thad, OG, and Juancho Hernan-Gomez, a guy we haven't seen a lot of this year. He's kind of picked his spots when Nurse tried to use him. What were your impressions of what this group was able to conjure up kind of on the fly with not a lot of reps together?
I think they did a great job. I thought Juancho played very well in the Indiana game also. Kind of quiet, understated, had close to double figures in rebounds. And when I look at him, I look at a guy that understands, A, his role, B, his strengths and weaknesses, C, where they fit in, and I'm not going to overplay them.
Yep.
Like somebody's taught the young man how to play.
I wonder who, Sergio?
Well, and how to play team ball. Like he fit in so seamlessly out there and did a lot of good things. There was one play where they ran a slip screen, and he went to the basket, caught it. He was almost underneath the plane of the backboard. And the selfish player thinks, I'm gonna bounce, I'm gonna jump stop, I'm gonna get myself back into a position where I can score. He caught it, looked into the corner, boom. And there was a made three. Just understanding what to do and how the team wants to play in the philosophy. I thought Juancho did a great job. And that unit was good because, as I said, there was a whole other unit that couldn't play.
Yeah, he hit OG for that shot, and it was a good pass. I think in situations like this, a couple things. Number one, you got to look at Nick Nurse and just tip your hat.
Yeah.
Because he put everything out there. And he continued to manipulate the lineups, and he continued to work through things in the lineups until he found something that he felt like he could finish the game with.
Yeah, 11 players played.
100%.
Yep.
And that takes a lot. You're missing some crucial guys. And as a head coach and a coaching staff, you're trying to get the best groups together on the floor because you know you got to play a lot of people. Who's going to work well together? You don't usually have these opportunities in games to do, and I thought he did a great job. The other thing is, everybody isn't a star, but you can be a star in your role.
Your role, yeah.
And I thought that's what guys did last night. I thought against Detroit, people were stars in their role. Jeff Doughton.
Yeah.
Look at that last sequence of possessions to end the game. He was excellent. Thought he got fouled on that offensive rebound, no call. Locks down, gets the job done on Jaden Ivey, blocks a shot, keeps the ball in bounds to save that possession. That's being a star in your role. You talk about Juancho. Listen, the guy made plays consistently. It's not like he got 20 opportunities, but when he got opportunities, he took advantage of it. Guys were being stars in the role, and it's important. And forget about Detroit's record. Forget about who's on Detroit's roster. This was opportunity time for people, and I feel like they all took advantage of it, including guys like Chris Boucher.
All right, well, let's listen into Nick Nurse's comments post-game from the big win.
When you see performances like Delano's and some standout guys tonight, how does that build trust for when the starting lineup or the roster in general gets healthy again?
Well, it certainly does, right? I think everybody contributed tonight, in some way that played, and that's what it takes, when you're thin and playing different guys. Everybody's got to do something. I thought Thad was great tonight, right? He takes 4 shots and what does he have? 6 points, but he was great all over the floor. Juancho, I thought, was cutting and moving the ball. Obviously, OG was very good as well. Scored some big time tough buckets. Chris was on fire, right, to start the half. That gave us a big lift. So it was good to see everybody. Christian and Kem even did their bits here and there, putting them in and blocking some shots and things like that.
Bodies, bodies, bodies. It's time to see who's the next man's up in the next man up philosophy for your Toronto Raptors. As we take a look at who's out right now, Precious is out with that ankle ligament. Justin Champagne's out. Ron Harper Jr. is with the G League. Pascal's out, of course, with the right adductor. Fred VanVleet with the non-COVID illness. Gary Trent's hip. And then now we have Otto Porter with the ankle, still waiting for an update on that situation. But the challenge is on Nick Nurse to find minutes, to find bodies. We got an example of what that could look like against Detroit, but where do you see him leaning Jonesy over the next little stretch, especially with the Miami Heat coming into town?
He's done this before, Nick. He's talked about it before, as I mentioned in our last segment. When he took over, he talked about finding flow and rhythm during a game. And he understands that you work with what you have. Like you make the meal with the groceries that you have. There's no other way to do it. So hence we see Jeff Doughton on the floor at the end of a game. We see more Chris Boucher. We see Koloko starting the last few games. He hasn't. As Sherm said earlier, I think you have to tip your hat to Nick for not being stilted and stayed in his ways and willing to be flexible, to look for people and look
He's
for ways.
kind of being forced to be flexible, too.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, though, he's always been like that.
Yeah.
He's always been like that. I'll never forget walking up the steps to the plane one night. Pascal, they played Phoenix in Toronto. Pascal had a game winner over Mikal Bridges with a left-hand layup. 2 nights later, we're on the road. They win a close game. I'm walking up the steps to the plane with him, and I said, so, Coach, who was it tonight? Like, who did you draw the last play up for tonight? And without hesitation, he turns to me and says, Norman Powell, Jonesy. I'm like, wow. So in terms of instilling confidence and being flexible, and every guy who plays for Nick Nurse has that feeling. This coach trusts me. He gives me confidence. And as a result, I'm going to go out and do what I do without worry.
Example of that was Thad Young, who was told after he didn't start for the first time, we're going to need you at some point. And that's kind of like, uniform for this entire group, Sherm.
It is, but Thad Young's a vet.
Thad's a vet,
He's been
yeah.
around the block, and he understands it. He's been through everything, And he understands his role on this team, more importantly. And it's a luxury for Nick Nurse to have a vet that you can say, no, you're not going to play some games. And then I'm going to put you in the starting lineup, and all you get is production from him. You don't get the sulking. You get a guy who understands what his role is and what the team needs. And to Jonesy's point about Nick Nurse and his ability to adjust and the way he thinks outside the box, I remember a few years back when there was a game that Norm Powell was playing in, and Norm Powell was like 4 of 13 from the floor that night. He might have been even worse, maybe 3 of 15, whatever it was. And Nick Nurse drew up the final play to win the game for Norm Powell.
Yeah.
And he missed. And I remember getting on the post-game show, and I said, Nick is playing the long game here.
For sure.
He's not playing the this needs to go in and I need to win this game. He's playing the I'm going to need Norm Powell down the road.
Yeah.
And I've got to show him that I don't just trust him when he's playing well. I trust you when you're having a bad offensive game, that you can still come through in the clutch. And that's how Nick Nurse thinks. Yeah. So he's constantly giving players confidence, and his creativity in terms of figuring out how to do this minutes thing, it's next level, because he will continue to toy and play and matriculate until he figures something out. And at some point it clicks. But what it does is it creates guys' hunger because there's opportunity. There's always an opportunity in situations like this because of the way Nick Nurse coaches, and guys take advantage of it.
In a league where people copy other people, Nick's an innovator.
Yeah. All right, well, enough from us. Let's check in with the players right now.
We were talking to Nick about your shooting. It's vastly improved over last year, and we're wondering whether it's the number of shots you got up in the summer. He said you changed a little bit of technique. How has it evolved in your mind?
Definitely, just going through the summer, going through all the reps I had and live games, playing for FIBA and playing for Team Canada and Summer League and stuff like that. Just going through the training with the Raptors development team and just trusting in the process and the tweaks and things they want to make to my shot, like just trying to get it off faster, game-like shots and stuff like that. But it's definitely a lot of reps, putting in a lot of reps, trying to, master your craft and doing what you can off, on your own time, working out to try and produce during the game. So
you feel more. He said you look more confident taking it. Do you feel more confident when you let it go this year than last, maybe?
Yeah, definitely feel more confident. Like I was saying, just trusting in the work that you put in. They always tell me that, and they're always there for me. Keep feeding me open shots, whether miss or make. So I'm just glad to have the teammates that I have that keep putting the ball in my hands when I'm open to shoot it.
Did you feel it was kind of like a gradual progression in your game, or did something special tonight just click in your head?
I definitely feel like it was a gradual progression. Just every night, just trusting in the work, whether I make or miss it. I still believe in my shot. So I wouldn't just say it was tonight, but yeah, definitely. It's good to see your shot go in, and it's good to try and carry it over to next game and stuff like that. But it's just continuing to put in the work and put up the reps.
Chris, you've been in situations a little bit similar to Delano. Like you're waiting for a chance, and then all of a sudden everyone's hurt and you're playing 30 minutes or whatever. What's it like to go into that kind of situation? What do you think when you see a guy like Delano just take advantage of a moment like that?
Just that the work that he's putting in is working. Obviously, a lot of work is being put behind the scene, and it's a tough situation not knowing when you're gonna play, and when you get the chance, obviously you want to do everything at the same time. But like I said, I think we were pretty ready for today. We just realized, Pacers and OKC, those are games that we just can't afford to lose like that. So we definitely wanted to come strong today, and Delano came ready to play, and it's just, like I said, it's next man up, and I think we all took that personal about losing that game last game.
Hot topic around Raptors fans on social media and probably at home, in the bar, everywhere else. That's year 2 for Scottie Barnes. Last night, not a flagship night for the kid. Got the minutes, didn't get the results that he wanted. Jaden Ivey gave him some problems. But let's talk about it. People talk about, making that jump in your sophomore year or maybe having that sophomore slump. Where do you guys sit on how Scottie has performed so far this year with the increased expectations from not only his coaching staff, but from the fans at home?
You want
No,
to
go
take
ahead.
the first
Go
shot?
ahead. Go ahead.
I look at the numbers.
Yep.
Compare the numbers now to what they were last year. You got the computer. You can pull it up.
They're similar.
They're very similar. Last year at this time, he was a rookie.
Yeah.
And people still weren't even sure if the Raptors made the right pick. Remember that? All the GMs that got their credentials by watching the NCAA tournament for 3 weekends. I think what the perception is now is Scottie is trying to meet raised expectations. Not that he doesn't have them for himself or the team doesn't have them for him, but it's also a situation where other teams know his ability level. They understand what he's capable of. He's on the scouting report. He also has a different role right now. He's doing more playmaking now, overt playmaking, like here's the ball, let's get something done, than he did last year at this point. The playmaking last year at this point was almost a surprise. Wow, this kid understands what to do. He knows what to play.
Let me give you a taste of the numbers overall.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking at an increase in minutes of about 3 minutes a game.
Right.
Field goal percentage down about 7%. But he brought the three-point field goal percentage up about 2%. And then you look at just points per game, and you got to say they're just sitting around the same.
Yeah. So I think the expectations are hovering, and that's what has this perception that – now, I'm not saying that he's tearing it up. If you ask Scottie, he'd probably want to be doing more. The team would probably want more from him. But it's early in the year. And I think what people fail to realize at times is you need to go back down the mountain and start again. You don't get to pick up – he might be the rookie of the year, but you don't get to pick up from where you left off last year. You need to go back down. You need to wade your way through all of it. You need to develop that chemistry, take on an expanded role, do all of those things. But the expectations, I think, are weighing on people, and people are measuring stuff against the expectations.
And there's tape.
Unfairly, too, exactly.
It's too common where we can be prisoners of the moment. And the most recent memory is the memory. And I think when you talk about Scottie Barnes, people are just getting caught up in the last little bit and saying, well, this guy's in a slump. And I'm like, well, pump your brakes a little bit. Look at his October numbers. He was fine. And all success isn't just linear upwards, right? There's peaks and valleys sometimes, and he's in his second year. And the idea of expectation is a problem when it gets out of whack. Expectations are great. You want people to have expectations of situations, especially when you've created them. Scottie had a phenomenal rookie season, especially to end it. He was great. Now the expectation is, well, improve on that. All right, well, he will. But there's gonna be some bumps in the road. It's just natural. And I think Scottie might be putting a little bit too much pressure on himself at times. We're seeing him make decisions that used to be so fluid that now seem very thought-oriented and processed, and that's not how you want to play the game of basketball. You want to play with feel. You want to play with rhythm, instinctually. And I think Scottie, he'll get back to that. But I have no concerns about Scottie at all. And if the great ones can have these quote-unquote slumps, why can't a second-year player who's down multiple key guys in the lineup, and that's another thing, because guys are out of the lineup, they expect Scottie to just ascend to that top spot and take care of business. It's a new role. Yeah. It takes a bit of time. He's going to have to figure it out, and that's okay.
I'd also like to say, like, a lot of guys who end up becoming Rookie of the Year, they're on teams where the entire focus of that team is to make sure he gets shots and he develops.
There's no expectation on winning, right?
And
whereas he has to worry about
100%.
a team winning.
And that's why I thought he was a valid Rookie of the Year candidate, a proper Rookie of the Year, because he was doing all that on a winning team with really good players around him, and he was putting up those kind of numbers. It's not like, as we said, the team wasn't great, the expectations aren't there. Oh, this kid's going to be the face of our franchise. Let's just give him the ball with impunity. There's no responsibility around the
last year was a legit Rookie of the Year race because Evan Mobley was on a winning team, and they had some injuries down the stretch that impacted them. So these two guys, as rookies, were excellent on teams that were winning. They both deserve the conversation, and Scottie just edged them out.
All right, well, we got to look back at this road trip, which wasn't the best road trip for the Toronto Raptors. And to break down exactly what was going on, we got our good friend Savannah Hamilton back in the house, breaking down exactly what went down while the Raptors went traveling.
Thanks, Akil. Well, the two losses for the Raptors, well, they're kind of bittersweet, probably the most bittersweet losses of the season because, well, they lost to the Canadians. Let's start with OKC and what happened there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander happened. He had 20 points that game, and that's containing him because he's averaging over 30 points a game right now. He's playing like one of the league's best players. And then you see Eugene Omoruyi, who's actually from Rexdale, Delano's friend. They go back, and he played very well. 22 points off the bench. And then, of course, you have Lou Dort, who's chipping in 13 points. And just the overall talent in OKC kind of outpowered a depleted Raptors team. They also, the Raptors also allowed 70 points in the paint. That's the entire game, okay? Like you can't win like that, period. Then you look at Indiana, the following game. Now Fred is out with a non-COVID illness, and the rest of the team, obviously, once again, the Pascals, the Preciouses, they're not available. And so now you're looking at your second line, your third line of guys to step up to the plate. And yeah, on one hand, there's an opportunity for more minutes and to go get it. But at the same time, you do need your primary offense facilitators to win that type of game. But with Indiana, Ben Mathurin, how great was it to see him step up? Another Canadian drafted this past year. He came off the bench and scored. Andrew Nembhard, who's been starting in and out of the lineup for Indiana, he was also effective in the game. And there's like the O'Shea Brissett, the list goes on. But the one thing that totally got the Raptors in that Indiana game, because they were right there neck and neck, they were leading at the half even, was the fact that in the third quarter, Indiana, they just came with a barrage of three-pointers. And the Raptors, they just didn't have that second win, that second punch in them to recover from that. And unfortunately, that's where you do need a Fred or a Pascal. Akil, I'll let you take it from here.
Welcome back at the Raptors today. The next opponent for your Toronto Raptors are the Miami Heat, an organization that is well run and well led. Not only just at the very top, but on the court, you have Jimmy Butler coming off a huge game against the Phoenix Suns, 16-13, and a block that was heard around the NBA. Let's talk about this man because he plays some great defense, but we have to also look at him on the offensive side of the ball. You guys ready to break down some Jimmy offense? A rare conversation when you talk about this guy, but let's look at it.
All right, Jimmy Butler. Sherm, you talked about a stabilizing guy. I feel like Jimmy Butler's like that for Miami. Here he is. They take the ball away from Kyle Lowry. Jimmy Butler brings it up, gets right into offense. Not a great job by Charlotte in terms of the screen and roll action, and Butler gets right to the basket. The middle open. Great read by Butler.
Well, Jimmy Butler is one of those guys that doesn't just have the ball in his hands to score. Here you see a little pin down action on the weak side. And it's all a distraction as Jimmy Butler sees that play. Strus starts to attack. He cuts backdoor on Washington, able to get to the basket for the and one. Jimmy playing without the basketball, his versatility comes into play there.
So here's Butler with a mismatch, a physical mismatch on James Bouknight. Shooters around the perimeter. The defenders have to hold their ground. Butler goes inside, and he's so strong with the finish with the help coming over late.
From one side of that backcourt to the other, Kyle Lowry averaging around 13 and 5. And when you look at the numbers, they're not impressive. But what is impressive about Kyle Lowry is the effect he has on the court. Let's break it down, Sherm.
Well, Akil, Kyle is so good, and you see Bam Adebayo nearly break his own ankles, but little screen and roll action, and Kyle does a good job getting into the middle, sucks in a couple defenders, sees the opening. Jimmy Butler doing a good job off movement. Kyle with the great vision that we all know he has.
The first time these two guys played together, Sherm, that I saw, I felt like they had instant chemistry, Kyle and Jimmy Butler, like two guys in the schoolyard. Here's Kyle again, attacking the defense. The defense not paying attention to Jimmy Butler, sees the back of his defender's head, straight to the basket.
And obviously, Kyle, in a scenario where he knows he's got a shooter, knows the defender's playing tight, how about this little bounce pass, a little pocket pass right under the defender's right arm as Duncan Robinson cuts to the basket? You got to put that ball in the right spot, and Kyle has been known to do that.
All right, the Raptors, of course, will not have their usual contingent of stars, so how do they go about slowing down this backcourt? tough ask.
Well, maybe they just have to play good defense. It's not that simple, obviously, but I think they're going to see a lot of zone.
Yeah,
for sure. So they're going to have to be prepared, not to settle for that shot, but they're going to have to be prepared to take and make threes. They've got to have good dribble penetration, understanding the half court. We showed the clips. There's a lot of movement from Jimmy Butler. You've got to match his movement. I think OG is going to have a very good physical matchup with Jimmy Butler at times. But if you're the Raptors, you don't want to get bogged down in the half court. Off your defense, create some transition, create some turnovers. It's what they're the best at, one of the best in the league at. Get in the open floor and make plays. You don't want to have to grind it out in the half court, possession by possession against this Miami Heat team.
Yeah, I think the defense is going to be a real key. The Raptors are, as Sherm said, one of the best teams defensively in creating turnovers, fast break points. Play to your strength. And there's as Nick Nurse likes to say, there's going to be some juice in the building. We know when Kyle was in Toronto, when they played Houston, when they played Memphis, when they played when he went to Philadelphia. I know everybody says, well, it's just another game. No, for some guys, it's not just another game. And Kyle was beloved here in Toronto. He's going to come back. He wants a good showing. I think all his teammates understand that. So there's an emotional side to this game as well, too. But you only play so long on emotion. But the Raptors need to be aware of that. I also think that in terms of, Sherm talked about their zone offense, in terms of the movement against the zone offense, they need to be patient and they need to get the ball inside into the soft spots of that zone to try and make some hay.
All right, well, the Raptors have their task set out for them. It's the Miami Heat in that zone defense. Coming to the Scotiabank Arena, 7:30. You can catch the video on Sportsnet, Radio, TSN, 7:30 tip. That does it for us here in our brand new digs. Catch us again. I think we're back Thursday, correct? We're back Thursday.
I believe we are, yeah.
Join us. This is Raptors Today. Thanks for watching.